semester ends, you're sitting up, with your feet, I guess maybe not really your feet on the desk, but then you get a phone call, and that is the thing that really changed your life, right? You weren't really looking for this.
Well,
I understand it?
That was the summer of 1975. Of course, I remember it well. I'm sitting in my office with my feet up, probably waiting for either a softball game or to go play golf or something like that, whatever. And I get a call, and it's from Congressman Florio's office, where his office is. He's the head of the Committee on Commerce and Transportation, or whatever it was called at the time, that had oversight over the reorganization plan for the Northeast railroads. And they asked for, there's a transportation program at Princeton, and does anybody in that transportation program at Princeton can help out and help the congressman who's from New Jersey basically evaluate and what was then called the final system plan, believe it or not, for reorganization of Northeast railroads. Why did they need to be reorganized? Well, they were basically filing Chapter 7, not Chapter 11, which means liquidation, not just reorganization, which means, you're selling the rails for scrap, and you're selling the land, and you're doing that, which is like, whoa. And so the financially, the railroads in the Northeast were in very, very bad shape. This is post the Penn Central breakup and their bankruptcy, and Chapter 11 bankruptcy at that point, but threatened to move to Chapter 7. So, and I said, well, railroads, I don't know, I do PRT, automated transportation, but we have a dinky out there that runs between Princeton Junction and Princeton. I ride it every once in a while. Yeah, sure, we can do railroads. What the hell, Of course, we'll help out. We see what we can do. Oh, come on down, and we'll give you a briefing. Go down to Washington on a briefing. And the consultants that have put the plan together, where the congressman basically forced them to brief us, and they didn't want to do it because they put the plan together. What the hell, they want a bunch of whatever from Princeton to look over their shoulder and evaluate what they've done. People don't know anything about railroads and haven't been in railroading, whatever. And they're going and they're going Topsy this and Topsy that, and they're taking my notes because they've been forced. They were told they had to give us what the hell's Topsy? I'm afraid to. Hey, say, what the hell's Topsy? I'm afraid to ask the question because I'll look, really stupid. They already knew I was stupid. This would put the nail in the coffin. Boom. Finally, somebody says, trailer on flat car. Whoa. God, man, I'm hot. I can do this stuff. And so we spent the summer, put some people together from Harvard, from MIT, a bunch of my students that were there. We basically did it. We coded up we had just gotten a IBM 370. A mainframe computer at Princeton, which was really the first computer that you had remote terminals, as opposed to cards that you put through the window. We had created out of that and brought to that some Tektronix terminals, Tektronix 4010 terminals that actually allowed you to draw things on the screen in front of you that then get captured by the computer. Whoa, what the hell? What is all this stuff? And it's something that we ended up calling the Interactive Computer Graphics Lab. And we coded up the first digital representation of the Northeast railroads that summer, so that we could basically evaluate the flows and the competitive aspects and what commodities moved, didn't move, paid how much, did all sorts of things, be able to do pro forma statements on various reconfigurations and so on. I mean, we just created it out of whatever, out of the newest stuff that was available, and that's they had said, September you have to come down to Washington and testify in Congress and about your findings. It's like, yeah, sure, yeah, we'll be there in September, no problem. Figuring out a year later might show up. We're down there in September and did our evaluation of it and put it together and flowed the traffic and so on. And basically, I think we did sort of say that more upside potential than downside risk. And while the estimate was for it take $1 billion to reorganize the Northeast railroads, we sort of came up with a $7 billion number. I think it turned out to be $7 billion. I think we were lucky rather than good. But in fact, put together what ended up being sort of the software and systems that ended up playing a substantial role in the reorganization of the railroads in the Northeast, in the country, and the world, and in fact, was maybe the best work I've ever done. Was associated with that.
It proved itself out because eventually the government was able to spin it off like 12 years later.
Yeah, absolutely. The government got its money back and so on. It saved the railroads. It created Conrail. Conrail went into operation. In fact, we advised Conrail, through most of its lifetime. And if the Southern Pacific hadn't been purchased by the Burlington Northern, something like 2 weeks before meeting of the board of Conrail, I think the board of Conrail would have voted to purchase the Southern Pacific, create the first transcontinental railroad, and would have probably changed things even more. We had done the analyses, we had prepared to do that and move forward. They were beaten in the marketplace in the purchase of the Santa Fe, and then at that point, the decision was that the better thing was basically to be broken up and sold. They were a private corporation; they could do that. Sold to CSX and Norfolk Southern, and the carving up of that railroad basically took place in ALK's conference room, company I created that then followed up on working on mergers and so on, and basically looking at the value of this piece going to CSS, that piece going to Norfolk Southern, going sitting there running the code, whether they'll come back with numbers and so on. So, and the government then Conrail got a good price. The stockholders got a good return on their investment. The government. It all worked out pretty darn well for everybody in the end, 25 years later. So I like to say that I participated in both the conception and the interment of Conrail, I mean, whatever, and throughout its lifetime. But really it was, in the end, what was it? It was the same sort of, computer analytics that we were doing to go to Mars, and personal rapid transit networks, looking at railroads and movement of goods and how shippers would behave one corporate entity, railroad, against another corporate entity, against the trucking entities. And that caused this because we ended up really making the digital map database network of the U.S. railroads, the world's railroads, really solid to be able to do these analyses, and then realize that trucks were the real competitors. freight railroads, and therefore we needed a highway network to do that. And I got us to code the first highway network for the United States and North America to use in competition, and then that led to turn-by-turn navigation for individuals.
Well, and I want to talk about ALK, but first, one of the things that just struck me was that the work you did, initially with the Congress, as far as looking at the engineering plus the finance together, that seemed pretty unique, and it seems like that's effectively what you're doing now with your program at Princeton.
Yeah, I think it really is. In the end, I think what we were doing there is we were looking not only at least a little bit about the technology, but also, what the technology delivers the society to the economy. And it was critical with respect to the freight railroads. I think it's critical in some sense with cars. I think it's critical with PRT in a sense. Sure, we were dealing with the headway control systems and whether synchronous operation, network management, cars and empty repositioning and optimization of all that in part, but also looking at the fundamental delivery of value of the mobility when it comes right down to it. And I think that's sort of that's certainly where our focus, or my focus now, with respect to driverless vehicles. Not only driverless, but smartly driving vehicles, the vehicles that we own, how they can bail us out better when we're misbehaving, which is that, to me, that's a safety issue. And on the driverless side, how that can provide improved quality of life to people, and just like what we're looking at with respect to others, find the ones that could benefit the most from it. And let's start there, as opposed to the ones that already have way too much. And what the hell, it's just another toy for them or whatever. That's not where this business should be, my personal opinion.